They say walls remember. Stone absorbs the screams, the prayers, the agony of those who once lived and died within it. And if that is true, then few places in history are as haunted as the castle of Vlad the Impaler. The world knows him as Dracula, a prince whose name became a synonym for fear. But behind the vampire myth lies a fortress of cruelty, a castle of torture, perched high among the mist-covered mountains of Wallachia. This stronghold was more than just stone and mortar. It was a machine of terror. From its towers, Vlad ruled with an iron fist, and deep inside its dungeons, he forged the legend that would make him immortal. Vlad III was not born into peace. His childhood was spent in captivity, a pawn of empires, hardened by betrayal and violence. When he claimed his throne, he swore his land would never again be weak. And so he ruled not with kindness, but with fear. Inside his castle, prisoners were dragged through iron gates and into chambers lit only by flickering torches. Here, mercy had no meaning. Every stone echoed with despair. The air was heavy with smoke, sweat, and the iron scent of blood. Vlad's signature was to the world, it became his mark. To his victims, it was slow death. A sharpened stake driven through the body, sometimes vertically, sometimes crosswise, leaving the victim alive, writhing and screaming for hours, even days. He impaled so many that travelers wrote of forests of the dead, fields lined with thousands of corpses, swaying like grotesque trees outside the castle gates. But impalement was only the beginning. Within these walls, torture took many shapes. Some captives were suspended on hooks, their bodies torn apart by their own weight. Others were broken on the wheel, limbs shattered one by one. Some were whipped until their backs were nothing but blood and torn flesh, and still others were burned, mutilated, starved, made examples in a theater of suffering. To Vlad, cruelty was not madness, it was a strategy, a weapon sharper than any blade. He believed fear could govern better than mercy, and he wielded it without hesitation. For enemies who threatened his land, terror was the strongest deterrent. For his people, it was the iron chain of obedience. There are whispers, whispered for centuries, of banquets held among the dying, of Vlad seated at a long wooden table, dining as impaled victims groaned and twitched on stakes around him, his goblet raised, his knife cutting meat, while men and women screamed in the night air. Was it myth, or was it truth written in blood? In these walls, the line between rumor and reality vanishes. Foreign visitors spread his reputation far and wide. German pamphlets and Slavic tales carried stories of the butcher of Wallachia, the man whose castle was a fortress of horror. Even the mighty Ottoman Empire trembled at the thought of him. When Sultan Mehmed's forces marched into Wallachia, they found a valley filled with 20,000 corpses impaled, rotting, blackened under the sun. An army stopped not by swords, but by terror. And so, Dracula's castle became more than a seat of power. It became a warning. A place where cruelty was not hidden but displayed. A place where every scream was a message, carried on the wind. But history is rarely simple. To his enemies, Vlad was a monster. To his people, some saw him as a savior. He defended Wallachia against invaders. He punished thieves, liars, traitors. In an age when kingdoms fell to corruption, Vlad's iron cruelty kept order. Yet the price of that order was terror carved into stone. Today, the ruins still stand. Bran Castle, Ponary Fortress, places bound forever to his legend. Visitors walk through cold stone corridors, their footsteps echoing where once chains rattled. The air is silent now, but the imagination fills it with whispers. Whispers of prisoners dragged into darkness, of nobles feasting above while peasants screamed below, of Vlad himself, watching, judging, deciding who would live and who would die. Bram Stoker's Dracula would come centuries later, painting him as a vampire, a lord of the night, but the truth is far darker. Vlad the Impaler needed no fangs, no immortality to haunt the world. His thirst was not for blood alone, but for fear. His castle was not a lair of myth, it was a theatre of suffering, and its stones remain soaked in the memory of agony. The torture castle of Dracula is not a story of monsters and myths. It is a story of man's capacity for cruelty, a story where history itself became nightmare, and where fear, once unleashed, left scars that time could never erase. This is the legacy of Vlad the Impaler. This is the castle of torture, where history and horror are one.